That night they returned to the hotel feeling that nothing was being accomplished. All of Alexander's testimonies left room for reasonable doubt and there was still no leader in process. The assistant prosecutor explained to them that there was no need to worry. That the next day they would start talking about the governor of Texas and his team and that in other sessions they would give data that would overthrow the theory of reasonable doubt. Does that mean that all the risk of these statements is useless? Agent Costello asked. Witness protection turned him into a girl. Part 10. It's not useless, responded the assistant prosecutor. We are presenting all the information according to the prosecutor's strategy to obtain convictions for all those involved. That night, before going to bed, Alejandro asked if he could respond to messages from his friends. Ivan thought about it for a moment and said, as long as you don't tell them where you are, I think the most normal thing is for you to communicate. If you want, tell them you had to go to Texas for a family matter. For Alejandro it was a relief. He hadn't mentioned it, but he was really missing his friends and he didn't want his absence from rehearsals to make him lose his role in the play. He entered his room and immediately took out his cell phone to respond to Kim and Kathy's messages. For the next 2 hours she was able to forget about the trial and all her problems. She simply went back to being Vanessa and laughed at the simple things that her friends told her. David had asked Kathy to the dance. Of course she accepted. Kathy was happy, telling her every detail of how David waited until they were alone and asked her if she wanted to be his date to the dance. She saw him as the most handsome boy in school and hoped that after the dance he would become her boyfriend. Kim was invited by Steve. She was also happy and excited. Kim said Vanessa had to come back soon so Brian could invite her. Although he didn't want to admit it, Alejandro got excited about the idea of going to the fall ball and for a moment he imagined wearing the new red dress and dancing with Brian. When they asked her when she would return, she explained that her grandmother had Alzheimer's and that because of work, no one else could take care of her and accompany her. That she could return as soon as someone else had time to take care of the grandmother. Alejandro checked his calendar to see the dates of the play and dance, and realized that some days ago, 6 months of treatment with the patches had passed. Agent Costello had not given him the new patches and he was not sure if he should ask for them. In front of the mirror he began to remove the old patch, but a feeling of sadness stopped him and he decided to leave them stuck to his skin, even if it was worthless. On Friday, the trial was a media scandal because the governor of the state of Texas was summoned to appear. When Alejandro testified, they asked him if he knew of any involvement of Governor Greg Abbott in drug or human trafficking. Alejandro responded that he had never dealt with Mr. Gregg. With whom did you deal with permits and payments in the state? The prosecutor asked him. With Mr. Wayne Abbott. No more questions from the prosecution. Alejandro left thinking that his testimony was useless, but before leaving, he listened to the prosecutor. I present as evidence the record of the governor, under the name Greg Wayne Abbott. The photos and stories of that moment would be on the front page of the newspapers. At the hotel they ordered room service. As always, the hallway guard verified that everything was in order and personally delivered it to the suite. That Friday afternoon, everyone was very happy about the direction the trial was taking and dinner was a kind of celebration. Special Agent Costello told him that he had this first phase of statements. He still had to present a statement on Monday and Tuesday of the following week and that there was no point in returning to the student apartment. So he could spend his weekend at the hotel as Alejandro. He just said that was fine, without showing much emotion. Don't you like being able to be a man for a weekend after 6 months? Yes, I'm glad, it's just that there's not much to do in here. Well, the hotel is full of police. I do think you can go down to the lobby to the restaurants or see the gift shops, or go to the pool. Oh well yes. Alejandro said more animated. The weekend was strange. Alejandro didn't have to pretend or put on makeup or wear pretty things, but he wasn't really happy with that. On the contrary, he felt a little empty. He went to the pool, but had to wear the girdle and a t-shirt in addition to his shorts to hide the boobs. When he got bored of swimming, he spent some time watching things in the lobby like any tourist in his bathing suit, flip-flops and t-shirt. He even sat at the lobby bar to watch a college football game with a plate of Powden and a Coke. The only thing he really enjoyed was the time he spent texting with Kim and Kathy. There were only 2 weeks left until the famous fall ball and the two asked her to try to return on time. After the game, he saw that well-dressed people began to arrive at the hotel and enter one of the event rooms. Because of the date, it couldn't be a graduation, so it had to be a wedding or some other event. He followed them to see that the room was decorated for a big party, and at the entrance people were registering and being taken to their table, but then they could come and go without problems. Curiosity was probably the cause. He decided to go change his clothes and try to sneak into the party. It was his chance to enjoy the weekend like Alejandro. In the room, Alejandro put on a gray suit with vertical lines, a light blue shirt and tie. He fixed his hair, which without extensions, almost reached his shoulders, in the most virile way he could and went to the party. Entering was no problem. He simply walked ahead of other young people who were approaching the door and said to the hostess, "They are coming with me." The hostess affirmed and let everyone pass without asking for registration. The party turned out to be a fancy bar mitzvah, full of teenage girls and boys. It didn't take long for Alejandro to find a table with kids his age. When they asked him where he knew the one from the bar mitzvah, he said that his parents were friends for years, and since they couldn't go, they sent him to represent the family. They started talking about sports and hobbies. It didn't take them long to change the topic to talk about girls and their experiences with them. Alejandro tried to participate in the conversation, but there came a time when he was bothered by the way the guys talked about girls and told obviously false stories to show off to each other. He remembered the talk with her friends. Almost all of them are pigs. With that talk he had enough to promise himself never to be like them. After dinner the music started and several boys at the table invited girls from other tables to dance. He had seen a very pretty girl 2 tables away who was wearing a beautiful silver dress. He invited her to dance. Although he had been practicing as a girl, following her partner, his dancing ability had improved a lot in these months thanks to rehearsals for the school musical. The girl's name was Ziva, 16 years old, 5 feet 1 tall, but with a spectacular body, wavy blonde hair and gray eyes, smiling and fun. As a child she had practiced gymnastics and was now a cheerleader at her high school. Alejandro, knowing what girls like, behaved attentive and respectful, but always showing interest the way Brian always did. They danced, talked and laughed the entire party. He was really enjoying that night. When they started playing slow songs, he asked her if she wanted to sit down. She said no and they continued dancing, now very close. Ziva was beautiful, and for a moment, he was about to kiss her, but he realized that he didn't see her that way. There was no desire, but something different. As they continued dancing, a little confused, he tried to analyze what he was feeling. She was exactly the type of girl he had always liked. Everything was perfect: her face, her hair, her makeup, her dress, her heels. Her dress. How would Vanessa look wearing that dress? What would Ziva think of him if she knew what he was thinking? He looked at her and everything he was thinking disappeared when she kissed him. It was a soft, shy, but very nice kiss to which he, of course, responded. He enjoyed it very much, but at the same time, he was wondering what she would feel? Or what it would feel like to be her. The party ended and Alejandro returned to his room alone. It had been an interesting night. After 6 months, he had had the opportunity to flirt with a beautiful girl and had kissed her, but for some reason, he had felt strange, like if he was pretending. It was something like that guy wasn't herself. That night, while Alejandro was at the party with Ziva, the agents who were on duty in the hotel hallway stopped a couple who were trying to enter the suite. They were not armed and apparently it was just a mistake. When they were arrested, they seemed to be completely drunk. The strange thing was that already at the police station, their alcohol level was below the legal level. After proving that they had a room reserved at the hotel, they were released with an apology from the prosecutor's office. Special Agents Castello and McLeod received the report upon arriving at the suite on Sunday morning. Alejandro got up late, took a bath and left his room without the girdle that hid his chest and wrapped in one of the robes provided in hotels. Even without combing her hair or even a drop of makeup, he looked totally like a girl. Vanessa. I didn't expect to see you today. Ivan said. No, I just went out to get my phone, Alejandro said a little embarrassed, as he grabbed his phone from the table and returned to his room. Don't worry, we have nothing to do today, just put on something comfortable. Ivan told her as she entered the room. With that in mind, she just put on some sports pants, a t-shirt and put her hair in a simple ponytail. Special Agent Castello asked her if she had not been scared when they tried to enter the suite. Alejandro hadn't even found out. It all happened while he was at the party with Ziva. While they were having breakfast, Alejandro told Agents Castello and McLeod about the adventure of the previous night at the bar mitzvah party. Ivan listened with interest and a certain fascination to the story that could come from any teenage boy but came out of the mouth of what, without a doubt, looked like a pretty girl. Very good. It's great that you were able to enjoy your weekend like Alejandro. Yes, it was fun. Ziva was really fun. She was just fun as la friend? Aren't you going to call her? Maybe it's worth keeping in touch to see her when all this is over. Alejandro thought about it for a moment. I don't know, maybe I'll call her after a while. Alejandro said without much desire. Come along. Don't keep her waiting. Maybe you can see her today. More out of pressure than conviction, Alejandro went into the room to call Ziva. He had only been on the phone with Ziva for a few minutes when another call came in. Alejandro looked at the screen and without a moment's hesitation, cut off Ziva's call and answered with his most feminine and melodious voice. Brian? It's you? That's all for today. If you like this story, please comment, tell me what do you think should happen with Vanessa. Also, please like and subscribe.